Welcome to the 3P podcast, everybody. Passion, Pain, and Progress. I am your host, Darnell Turner. And on today's episode, we have a very, very special guest, a friend of mine, one of the hardest, one of the toughest dudes that I know. We have the Organic Ironman. Welcome to the show, brother.
What's up? What's going on?
Man, so first things first, since we did our last podcast, so much has changed. Like so much has changed. I've seen your progress. I've seen everything that you went through. I took a second to look back on and watch the podcast that we did.
I was trying to watch it last night. I couldn't get all the way through, but I got about 25, 30 minutes in. When did we shoot that?
I think so that was like my first time ever recording with someone. So I think that was I want to say about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, so 2021. So that was I already had 2 races under my belt then.
Okay. So yes, 2 races.
Yeah. 1, 2. Now four races later, or 73. Man. Well, no, 5 or 473s and my first full, and then sprinkle in our marathon or 2.
Man, like so as I'm watching it, I can see how both of us we wanted to get our story out, but we're a little uncomfortable with just talking in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And for me as an interviewer, I'm just like it was scary for me. I ain't gonna lie. So looking back on it, like you said, I don't know how like when you say you didn't get all the way through it, was it because like it was kind of like cringy to see yourself, or
no? I was listening to it when I was driving my dog to go get a bath last night. Drove it on the way back. Then my girl called me, and then I just started listening to music afterwards. So
okay.
It wasn't like cringy or anything like that to me. But I was trying to figure out the timeline. I was like, "Ooh, when was this?" So
yeah. So for me, I was honestly say for me, it's hard looking at my old videos because it's like I'm like, dude, you could have said this or you could have said this. So I'm very, very happy to see both of our progress. But I'm also like I'm eager to get you to talk about from then to now. So a lot has changed in that time. Not only did you have you done multiple different races, but you've also moved. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, even your career changed. Like there's so many different things that has changed. So, just first of all, let's talk about your last race, man. Or not even let's not even go there. Take me to Happy Valley. That's where I want to start at. So take me to Happy Valley and just take me to the preparation. I want to talk about your preparation to Happy Valley and how that race has impacted you to make the changes that you did.
Yeah, Happy Valley was almost the end of Organic Ironman as we know it. So, man, I put everything into that race. And you can look back on my Instagram. I did a whole vlog series. It was almost every other day or every 3 or 4 days. I essentially made a vlog for that. And I put my all into that. Anything that my coach at the time was telling me, I did it. Obviously if I had questions or concerns about it, I would dive into it with him, and then, but still I would do it to the best of my ability. And I was locked in. I was ready to go. I mean, based on how I was feeling, how fit I felt, I was like, oh man, this sub 6 is in the bag. And, that's obviously been my biggest goal in this 70.3 journey. My first 2 was really just finishing, right? I mean, I think anyone starting off going into a 73, just finish the thing, have fun, finish it. But for me, as soon as I'd done my first 2, I was like, I want to be better at this. I want to be really good at this. So sub 6 was always the goal for me. And how I came to sub 6 was just Google average male 70.3 finisher time. And it says about 6 hours, I think it's like 6 to 6:30 is what the average male time is. So I was like, I just want to be better than average at this. I'm putting in my all into this. I want to be better than the average. So that's where I've always came up with the sub 6. And for Happy Valley, I was like, I'm doing it. I don't care how they, going in, they say this is going to be the toughest bike course in North America on a 73 level. And I was like, I don't care. My bike's, that's the strongest where I'm at. I'm from Pittsburgh. I can pedal up any hill. I don't give a fuck. But man, it was rough. So swam pretty great. I think it was 3 minute PR swim for me at that time. So I came out of the water feeling great. And but the swim, even with the PR, it was only on an RPE level, probably a 5 out of 10. I kind of just I started in the front pack. That was something that I started doing at Happy Valley. Just start in the very front of the amateur pack, because I learned kind of about drafting in the water. You could essentially sit behind. It's similar to like how a bike peloton kind of works. Okay. You could kind of sit behind the feet of a fast swimmer and essentially keep up with that person. And so I did that, had a really good swim. I felt energized. Like I said, still a very low effort on the swim. So came off the bike, but as soon as I got on the bike, I realized that it was going to be a long day. I kind of biked pretty hard for the first 20 some miles or so. And looking back at the data, I wasn't sure what I was doing. I didn't have a true watt goal for that race. My boy at the time, Justin, he was kind of looking at what I was doing and, rode with me a little bit. And he was like, okay, maybe try to go for, 220 watts. So I tried to ride that 220 watts, and it was just 220 was just too much for me for 56 miles, which is crazy looking how I've progressed in such a short time. But the 220 watts just killed me. And then once I got off the bike, I was dead. I couldn't run. I had no pop in me. And it was just a really demoralizing bike, a very tough run. There's a lot of people I knew on that course, whether that was through Victory or just people I knew through Instagram. And, Sipple comes by me. I'm already walking at mile 3. And he's like, let's fucking go, Organic. Walk later. You know what I mean? So it was just very demoralizing. And I was just like, dude, I just have nothing in me. And then it just kind of sucked. I think what my finishing time was like 6:30. So a little bit better than my Indian Wells time. But again, it's still or my Indian Wells from the year before. But my sub 6 goal was still not met, and I just felt hopeless. It's like, I don't know what they're doing. I'm putting in so much time and effort. I had really bad imposter syndrome, right? I was putting out those vlogs on Instagram, and I was like showing how fit I was, which, I was, but I just didn't race to my fitness level. And I think that's kind of what I've matured as an athlete of kind of learning how to properly train to race the way you want. Right. Because, my boy Justin, when he told me, hey, race at 220 watts, that was just his guesstimate, right? I mean, he wasn't coaching me at the time. He wasn't really overseeing my training peaks. That was just his guesstimate. Hey, chill out over there. So that was just his guesstimate. And it was just too much. But I wasn't training at 220 watts. I was just over biking and really wasn't training at a level that I should have been doing to easily have done 220 watts. So it was just a rough day. I was ready to hang it up, call it quits. Felt like a phony, felt like imposter syndrome really bad. So man, I had to take some time. 48-hour rule. If those that don't know, after any race, whether that's triathlon or even a simple 5K, take 48 hours to ingest what you did and before you make your next move, right? Because you'd be very impulsive. Some people may come off a race and then, sign up for another race the next weekend, but not realizing that their body's damaged. So always take a 48-hour rule. So I took the 48 hours, flew back to Vegas. I was at the pool, told Justin, is like, yeah, I'm not really sure, what I'm going to do. And he was just like, dude, let me just overtake your training. Because he saw how dedicated I was to this. I'll put in the hours. I'll do whatever is told of me to do what needs to be done, and I'll do it. So he knew that, and he oversaw my training. And ever since then, it's been my first full Ironman, and then now Indian Wells 73 this past weekend.
Man, so going into that race, you were already I'm a big proponent on like not only focusing on physical, but also focusing on your mental. So where was your mental going into the race? Because I remember conversations that we were having, and I know like I said, facing a career change, but also not only did you uprooted yourself right before you even raced. So you were dealing with a lot of other outside factors other than the race. So where were you at mentally just going into the race?
Yeah, so what Happy Valley was in July. Hold on, I have the medal somewhere. It's in the very, very back. Yeah, July 2023. So that was 7 months into the year, and I was laid off in January, and I moved in December, laid off in January. And during that time I was just battling out mentally, and obviously training kind of kept me sane, and I wanted to kind of showcase that a layoff, things like that isn't gonna or shouldn't be the outcome of someone's year, right? I wanted to, end the year at a very, very high note, a very high level, and say, hey, listen, this layoff isn't going to define me. I'm going to figure it out. My career, what I do, I'm a technical recruiter, and, those jobs are very scarce right now. But I was like, it doesn't matter. I've been doing that for 7 years. That will come. But right now it's time to just, handle what I need to do outside of my career. And, hopefully that, what I'm doing now will eventually be my career later down in life. So I was looking at the bigger picture of it all. And I wanted to just go in and just demolish this sub-6 goal and say, I'm not going to let, these small things define me. And I'm going to overcome it mentally and physically.
Man, like that's big. And I think, for me, I know you were going through it. And I remember having a conversation with you after, and you was like, bro, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
No.
And, my biggest takeaway from, just from the outside looking in is that I knew how much you were going through, just how much life was challenging you outside of racing. So, and I know even if you go back and look at our first conversation, how we said that just through endurance, and endurance sports has literally kept us mentally strong. So just to see that you made it through that moment, and also made it through that moment, mentally and still ready to rock, because most people would have took that option to say quit, because you've already done more than most men have done at this point. And this is before you even took it to the next level. You've already done. Most people just want to do an Ironman, whether it's whether it's the half or the full. So you've already, quote unquote, you already were an Ironman. I mean, you've already done the job that you set out to do. You didn't do the full yet, but you already set out to do a goal. So most people would have walked away at that moment because it was hard.
Yeah, it's a financial strain as well, right? I mean, traveling,
I
had to fly to Pittsburgh, and then we had to go in a hotel. I mean, we didn't stay in the most extravagant hotel, but I mean, we stayed in a hotel, and like I said, I wasn't going to let that define me. And I had the goal. I signed up for that race, and that was something that I really wanted to do. And I wasn't going to let a layoff affect that. So yeah.
Man, that's major. That's major. So, ever since that moment, what was the turnaround point? So I know you said that you and Justin had that conversation, and he locked in with you. But what was that moment that you were like, okay, here we go? Was it after the 48 hours, or was it like right immediately the next training block? When was that next time that you said, you know what, this is it?
This is it, as in I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, you're going to keep going.
Yeah. I just felt that, I definitely took the 48 hours rule. I mean, you asked my girl, I was sad. I was depressed. I was just like, dude, what am I doing? I have to look at her, she sat there for, it's long for spouses too. When partners go to these races, they're waiting around all day, and they only get to see you, maybe 5 minutes out of the entire thing. Right. So, I'm looking at her, and I'm just like, dude, like, I'm sorry. And all these things. And I think you kind of talked about it at your last marathon, and, it sucks. Right. And so I really took the time and gathered my thoughts, but I think, being a couple years into this just mental health journey. I mean, put aside the physical stuff that I've been doing. I've been on a mental healing and mental strengthening journey for much longer than I've been doing triathlon. And I think some of those practices that I learned really helped me push through and be like, dude, there's a bigger vision for you. There's a bigger goal for you than just Happy Valley 70.3, right? I mean, you can't let Happy Valley 70.3 bring you down. Just like the layoff, I can't let the layoff bring me down, right? There's a bigger goal, right? When I set out to do this thing and I'm trying to create this brand, it's going to just be part of the story eventually, right? We can't all be Nick Bears out here just doing insane PRs every single time. Like you have to take losses to win. And that's something that really resonated with me within those 48 hours and said, okay, what's the next thing? Yeah. I said, all right, we're signing up for the full Ironman. So I was like, okay, I let Happy Valley bring me down, but the full Ironman isn't going to bring me down. So that's, I took the 48 hours, and after those 48 hours, I said, I'm signing up for the full Ironman in Maryland. So that's the way I did it. Told Justin that was my plan, and he was like, all right, let's do it, dude. And we did a lot of training since then.
Man, one thing I want to touch on too, and I think that, I mean, they do, people do give their significant others some, props, but man, shout out to the women behind the men, or the men behind the women in endurance sports, or, anyone that's that support system, because, it is hard to wring yourself out in these races, and you get so vulnerable. Like I remember telling you, I was so like, I don't think people understand how vulnerable it can be to be physically and mentally drained, and then have to look at your partner and be like, I just drug you out here, not drug, but they're supporting you, but to look at someone and be like, man, I didn't even complete that goal. I thought about that. I remember texting you after my marathon, and I said, bro, I feel like I just paid for a loss.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
like
it is exactly what it is.
It's so crazy because, other people, the conversations, and I think it's important to have friends in this endurance space too, because it's hard to express that, because even my wife is like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I lost. Like me personally, I set a goal out to win, and I lost. And it might, because I crossed the finish line, I know I have to be, I have to understand that it is a goal, and it's a goal for other people. But for me, I want to reach my goals, and I don't want to drag you out here every time. And maybe drag is not a good word, but have you come out here to support me, and I don't meet that goal, because not only are, you said something to me that I thought was so it rings in my head all the time. You said, I remember me and you were talking, and you said, I surround my life around this. This is not a game for me. Like you were like, everything I do is, I have training in mind. And I don't think people understand the fact that your discipline comes because most people are getting up and stretching and getting their day started, but you've probably already done a 40-mile bike ride before you even got to work, or after work, and not including a swim or a run. You have to literally base your life around your training, and to actually not reach that goal afterwards is very demoralizing. But the fact that you picked yourself up and you kept fighting is one that I think a lot of people need to learn, and also understand that you can do more than you're doing now.
I took the L and said, all right, give me a bigger challenge. I guess my goal wasn't that big enough, right? I was like, if my goal was 70.3, if my goal was Happy Valley 70.3, it's not a big enough goal. So I said, all right, we're doing Maryland. So yeah, man, it was crazy. It was crazy. I needed that loss though. I needed that loss. And I don't think without that loss, I honestly think that if I had hit sub-6 that day, honestly, it was a really tough course. Obviously now learning really what I know about triathlon and courses, and kind of really how to attack these races. Even if I did get a sub-6 that day, my sub-6 might've been like 550, 555. Like, yeah, it's still sub-6, but this feeling I had this past weekend was much better than I think if I would have gotten it at Happy Valley. So again, I really think that, you know, taking L's just it's part of the game, man. And, you know, we are guys that we haven't had anything handed to us. So we understand that, you know, it feels better when loss is a fresh in your mouth, right? So
Yes.
that it was good. It was I'd rather have had the sub-6, the experience that I had this past weekend versus at Happy Valley.
Man, so all right, now we passed Happy Valley. So now your first official training outside of the coach that you were working with before, was it at the full?
It started with full, yeah, but
Okay.
with the goal in mind of hitting a 70.3 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we really just dialed it in on true zone 2 and fat max work, especially on the bike. Because one thing that he taught me very early on, it was like, if you want to be a better runner in triathlon, you have to bike a lot. So I was biking a ton. I was on that trainer a lot throughout the week. I mean, I think my biggest trainer ride, I think I did 4 hours indoors. And it was essentially all at 180 watts because we did there's a test called inside. And essentially it's like a 3-day test. Honestly, I think it's a little bit better than like figuring out like a VO2 max or VO2 max testing with the mask and all that shit, right? It just looks dope on Instagram, right? you look like Bane. But this test was it brought in more insights than honestly than any other testing I've done. So we were able to figure out my fat max, where essentially it brings up. Essentially, it's right before you know you start getting into the lactate thresholds. So we just rode a ton at that watts. I mean, I rode 180 watts for a long time during that training block, and I think the most I ran. I think the biggest run I did during the Maryland training block was like 12 miles. I think that was the most I ran. I biked way more. I swam a shit ton too. I was
swimming, bro.
I was swimming my ass off, dude, and it was pretty demoralizing because once I got up to Maryland, the swim start was cut short. Everyone's all pumped up. Yeah, shorter swim. I was pissed. If you go back to watch my YouTube video, I was trying everything to stay calm. I was just like, I moved away from my boy Prince. He was filming me, and then my girl was there. I actually had to distance myself away from him to collect my own thoughts because I was very upset that swim was cut short because I wanted a sub 1 hour swim. I wanted to swim at about 58 minutes. I had all these goals in mind for the entire day. I wrote out the entire day a few days beforehand as kind of a journaling exercise, which is great. And so 58 minutes was just in my head. I wanted to do this swim. I busted my butt in the pool, you know, for months. And, you know, even the guys that were swimming with me they knew I was putting in the work. Even sometimes they'd get out of the pool and I'd get the extra, you know, I'd stop at maybe 30. The workout would stop on the cool down with everyone in the pool would be about like 3,800. But I was like, dude, that's only 200 more. I'm just going to do 200 more just to get the 4K. So I was swimming, you know, 13, 15K weeks just to, you know, prepare for this thing. So it kind of sucked that the swim was cut short. But yeah, I had a great day. But yeah, it was, yeah.
So now the big moment that everyone's waiting for, right? Because we had to give them the backstory. Now your race this weekend. So I wanna preface this by saying the conversation that I had with you when we did our workout, right? When you came to Pittsburgh and we did our workout.
Finley, yeah.
So what I observed from you was that you were more confident in yourself.
Yeah.
And I wanna ask, what was the difference in training that made you more confident? Because I think now this is me looking inward, right? I feel like the first couple ones was just that the ego telling you, I put in the training and I'm gonna do this. This time, I think that you genuinely knew that you were gonna do something special in this race, and I can tell by how calm you were when we were having conversations, and even the teaching, the conversations we were having about training as you were teaching me things as we were running, I said, man, this guy really is dialed in. So what was the difference between your training process leading up to this next one? Was it the fact that you had that full under your belt already and mixed with the training, or was it just that you really understood your training and that you were getting better information?
It was definitely better information. Really just learning what training for this type of sport is at a high level, right? I mean, everyone wants to just talk about what everyone else is talking about on Instagram, right? But I think what I learned was that, man, you really need to be dialed in on your training. So I think where the confidence kind of came from was definitely the new training, but I got a crash course of it because I went into a full Ironman block. Where before, it really wasn't like that. And so we kind of dialed it in, and the things I was learning, I'm very explosive. I'm a very, very explosive guy. As that's obviously due to playing college football. I could sit there and I'll run hill sprints all day, especially now. I mean, I'm way more in shape than I was when I played college football. So I actually have an idea of doing a, the NFL training camp. They have a fitness.
Yeah.
No, not combine. They do the 300-yard fitness test.
Okay.
I was like, oh, maybe that'd be fun content to do, just because I still have that explosiveness in me. But one thing I just learned about, my biggest, I guess I'll start with my biggest kryptonite was the run. I could not run off the bike. I felt like I was a strong biker, decent swimmer. I mean, honestly, coming in, I never swam. I think my slowest swim time starting off was 37 minutes. And I mean, that's pretty good for someone that's never swam ever. So I've always felt like my swim bike was there, but my run just never was there. So one thing that I learned in my training was that zone 2 training could mean a lot of different things. So one thing my new coach kind of taught me, what he even said, hey, you may not like this. A lot of guys don't like to hear this. So I'm not sure how you're going to take this, but based on looking at your data and everything that I know, a swim walk variation is, or I'm sorry, not swim walk, a run walk variation is going to drastically change your run. So what that would look like is, yes, you're going to stay in your zone 2, right? But that doesn't mean go run 4 miles at zone 2 or perceive or RPE, right? It's essentially knowing your rate, knowing your zones, but also, let's run one. It's one, the workout's written out 4 times 1 mile. And then underneath will stay 20 or 60-second walk in between. Right. Yeah. So you're running that 1 mile at, whatever pace or whatever heart rate zone is your zone 2. And then that heart rate zone, the 20 to 60-second walk brings your heart rate back down. So it's all about how you're able to bring that heart rate back down, and then keep it up, stay in that zone, bring it back down. So if you ever look at some of those workouts that I've sent you, my graphs are, it's like graph here, it's like bar, and those are my mile repeats.
Right.
And then with a drastic drop in my heart rate, because I stop, I walk, I get my breathing down. So that was probably the biggest thing that changed for me. Within my running is just doing a lot of that type of running during the Ironman block, and then obviously during the 70.3 block. But during the 73 block, we did add some more speed work, which was great. The speed wasn't really there on Sunday, but I mean, it was still a pretty big PR. That was a really tough course for me. But I mean, my run's getting better, and that was the best data point that I could have got from that day, is that my run's getting better.
Man, one thing, you're definitely explosive. I remember when we were running, when we were doing the track workout, and I remember you took off, and I remember like you were just going, and I was just like, God damn, like you was out, and you're like, I can attest to that. You're definitely explosive, and I will say this too, after doing that one workout with you, I don't know if it's the placebo effect, but my heart rate was so low that whole week. It was so crazy. Like I was trying to have my heart rate high when I was running, and it would not go up. And I was just like, man, like that one workout change. And I think one of the biggest things I noticed from that workout that we did is the warm up and the cool down. I never do that because
done like that,
one, I'm always putting training. If I got 3 miles, that's, you know, at my pace, that's 26 minutes, and then I got to go to work. But actually setting that time aside and doing a warm up and cool down, now it's like, okay, if I got to get out at 6 a.m. just to get my full workout before work, that's what needs to be done. So that's the discipline that I think that you know, it shows in your training as well, because you are setting time out to actually do the full workout, not only just the 3 miles that's on the docket. You're actually putting time in.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing is you're not going to do anything on race day if you don't do it in training. So we knew kind of even just at a 10-minute pace, really early on for the full Ironman. I mean, that would set me up for a good day. If I could run 10-minute pace, if I could run 10-minute miles at an Ironman after a 112-mile bike ride, that's going to set me up for a good day. And it was rough. I had really bad side cramps coming out of the bike. Didn't know what it was. First, I thought it was ketones, and then I thought it was, I ate a bar. I had one of those Martin solids on the thing, so maybe it was the solid food. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the whole stomach cramp thing, but I eventually actually negative split that marathon. Meaning that like my back half of my marathon was actually faster than my first half. So that just a testament to just smart training. I mean, it's more than just finishing, right? I mean, if I told you like, hey, go, if you want to do a marathon and your Saturday workout is just, hey, go run, 13, 14, 15, as the weeks go on, just increasing your mileages on your long runs. Yes. I mean, that will get you across the finish line. That will cost you a marathon. But for you to get better, if you actually look at some of these marathon guys and their workouts, they're not just going out running 16 miles. It's broken down into kind of how we did it at Shinley. There's a warm-up phase. There is, the main workout, and then maybe they'll end it with some striders or some fast miles, things like that. So really just learning how to break or how to set up workouts for myself versus then just, hey, go run 6 miles and don't get your heart rate above 160, right? I mean, yeah, that's a decent workout. I mean, for the average person coming off the couch, that's good. But for someone that's trying to get better, someone that's trying to hit specific times, you need a specific workout plan that is tailored around those times. Because again, at Happy Valley, my boy just said, hey, just go ride 220 and just see how you feel. But like my training wasn't based on that at all. I mean, I went over his house the one day and we set up the bike trainers next to each other. He did his workout, I did my workout. He was looking over at my Zwift and he was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like you're burying yourself. Like I was riding higher watts than he was. He goes, this is what was given to you. I was like, yeah, bro. Like, and again, I'll do whatever. If it's on Training Peaks, I'm going to do it. So like, I was kind of blinded to the fact, but then once he started opening up and was like, hey man, I think we should kind of do this, do that. I was all in. I mean, even for the first time he told me, hey, come swim with us. It was almost like LeBron James asking me, like, come put layups up to, do layups together. Right. I was like, hell yeah. So I've just been learning a lot, being a sponge in the game, student to the game. And that's how a lot of these guys are, right? I mean, a lot of these people, they are just born triathletes. Most of them are swimmers, are bikers, but look at someone like Trevor Foley or a couple guys that played or that ran in college. They weren't swimmers and bikers. They had to learn it, and their craftsmanships and just learning the game. And that's really the biggest thing for this year is I learned the game. I learned what the training is. Now I'm not the most scientific. I'm not the smartest man when it comes to, why we do certain things or why we do, but I understand what it's doing to me at a long-term level. So, yeah.
One of the biggest takeaways that I have from that is, one, the fact that you got around, most people don't know, or most people, and you'll probably tell them who you're referring to, your friend. He is a pro triathlete, and one thing that people don't realize is that there's levels to what you're doing. So when you're just trying to finish, of course, you know, you're going to get the information. I mean, they have apps, they have literally, you can go online and find out how to run a marathon.
Yeah.
You can get a trainer, you can get X, Y, and Z. But to actually get information from someone who's doing it on a high level, I mean, on a high performing level, I think that's what makes a big difference. And, you know, not a lot of people have access to that, but that's where these conversations come in handy for those people out there, because I'm pretty sure if someone asked you, because you're very, very open and upfront with me about how you train, I'm pretty sure if someone asks you, you'll be able to pass on some of that information, and not, you know, not gatekeep that from people. Because I think a lot of people, what a lot of people do is they get top-notch information, and then they're like, 70 people want this information from me. I'm gonna charge you $79.99 a month. And you know,
I'm not at that level. Nope.
Yeah, and that's the, you know, that's the goal, to be able to make a living off of your knowledge. But I think that a lot of people, you know, from past conversations that we had, there's a lot of cut and paste things that go on, and you know, there's a lot of, hey, this is for 10 people, but I'm gonna give it to one person and make it seem like it's, you know, top notch, like I did science on you.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I do appreciate your openness about your training and where you come from. I think your story is very inspirational. I know your story is inspirational and where you come. So take me to you crossed the finish line, man. You crossed the finish line, and not only did you cross the finish line, but you PR'd 58 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
58 minutes, bro. 58. It was crazy. I mean, when I ran across that finish line, so this is the second time I've done Indian Wells. I did it last year. And it sucked because it's a really tough course, and you run on this like golf cart on a golf course. And it's punchy, it's wide turns, you're going down a hill, it's wild. Some of these aid stations, you like go down this hill and it's a bend and you got to hurry up, grab a cup and go. I mean, it's a gnarly course. And going into it on the second lap last year, I actually got injured. I was wearing the Alpha Fly 2s, and the Alpha Fly 1s, and obviously very high stack. And going up that hill, I tweaked something and pulled the ligament, not pulled, but I definitely tweaked a ligament in my foot on the outside, and it was painful to walk the entire time. So last year I had to walk across that finish line. This year I sprinted across that finish line. It just felt so good. And after I got done, I was so pumped. Saw my girl, I started like crying in her arms. And then my boy Justin, he raced the race, obviously in the pro field, and it was just awesome seeing him afterwards. He was pumped. I mean, I know if it wasn't for his insights, I may have not have, you know, had that big of a PR. So I was just very grateful. I felt great. I mean, I've never felt so in control of a race up until that time. It's because I actually had a plan, and I actually looked back at my Strava, because I tried to use Strava as like a journaling exercise as well, especially after races. And I looked back at my Indian Wells last year, and the bike goal was to average 20 miles per hour. And those of you who don't know, I didn't have a bike computer at the time. I think that is definitely one of the most important things to get starting off is a bike computer, seeing the data in front of you, you know, seeing where your heart rate's at, seeing what, you know, where your wattage is at. Last year, I'm in Aero, and I didn't have any of that, so I'm just looking at my Garmin watch and it's like, okay, I'm going 20 miles an hour, I'm good. But you know, I wasn't really peeping my heart rate, and my heart rate was probably in the 160s, 165s the entire race. Wow. So I was set up for failure to run. I mean, regardless of how much run training I was doing, I was set up for failure to try to run off this bike, because it's not about the Goggins mentality and stay hard, and yes, that is true to a certain degree, but this shit is like scientific now. I mean, especially you looking at what the Norwegians are doing and everything. There's so much science behind this, and you know, now this year I was in full control. You know, I started off the swim. One of the guys that I stayed with this weekend, His name was George, and he is on Justin's team, Everyman Jack, and he's one of the top guys in our age group. And I was swimming with him the entire swim. Wow. And I felt so in control, and it was kind of cool being in the front of the swim pack. I think I came out 30th out of the water in my age group, and to kind of see how those dynamics kind of play out, and then getting on the bike and actually riding at the correct watts that we wanted. Me and Justin trained for 250 watts, all training block. We were going to ride Indian Wells at 250 watts. That was our goal. I was riding the trainer behind me at 250 watts whenever it was race goal wattage. Now, again, when we were riding or doing the training, we would ride 250 watts. It would be like a segment of 3 times 5 minutes. So five minute reps at the 250 watts in the middle of a workout, so you could really feel what those race watts are. Right. So I was very confident I could ride 250 watts. But the day before the race, Justin was like, "Hey, listen, I want you to have a really solid run, and the run course is hard. Let's put you at 240." I rode my average watts was 241. My normalized power was 244. So I was right there. And I got off the bike and I felt great. I was ready to run. But then obviously the bike or the golf cart, it's just so hard to get in a groove. If we did this on a flat course, man, I probably may have gone a lot lower than 528 if it was like a flat course, to be honest with you. But you can't control those things. But that was really the biggest thing, man, is being able to be in full control of your race versus like, oh my God, I'm at mile 32 of the bike and I still have 20 some miles to go. That's great if you're just trying to finish this race, but I have bigger goals in this sport. Eventually I want to be sub 5 finisher. I want to be in be on a have a shot to go to worlds and all these things. It's tough. Our age group is rough.
There's some savages out there, man.
Oh my God, dude, these dudes are nuts. So I know that's where my goal is, and now I know that the training, the proper way to train for that. So I just want to keep learning and absorbing as much as I can, and training smart, so that way I'll just keep getting better. Because I mean, this is our first 73 together, working together, and it was huge. I mean, even if you look at my full Ironman numbers, I mean, it was under 12 hours. So if you were to break that in half and do a 73, that's your sub 6 right there. Right. So, knowing that, I had a great day at Maryland, and I was so excited to get back and start training again for a 73. I was like, dude, this fitness, I can't let go of this fitness. I just want to keep going. I just want to keep going. And we ended up with almost an hour PR. I kind of wish I knew I was cuffing at the 58-minute mark, because I probably would have ran a little bit harder the last 5K, but hey, man, it is what it is. I'll take the big PR and just keep working on that, man. Sub 5 hours is next, man. That's for sure.
Man. Oh man, that brings me so much joy, because just to see how this year started for you, from the Pittsburgh Marathon to the Happy Valley to to your full, and then to end it off on such a high note, and then to know that if a loss got you this motivated, just imagine what a win is going to do.
I know, bro. I know.
You know what I mean?
I took L's all year, man. I moved here, and I was living with my sister and her husband. Obviously, I wasn't living like Harry Potter under a staircase or anything like that. They were pretty nice setup here in Vegas. So I was very comfortable living in their house. But when I first moved there, I was only expecting to be there for a couple months. But then as soon as I get there, I get laid off, and I don't know what to do. And I was like, oh God, So it was just a rough start to the year. But I wasn't going to let that define how this year came out. I wanted full control. I felt like I was in full control of no matter what I did. And that's not just because of, Instagram will tell you, oh, if you do an ice bath, it's the hardest thing of your day and you'll be able to do anything after that. No, it's much more than that. It's years and years and years and years and years of taking losses and having to come back, taking losses and having to come back. And this is way before this organic Ironman thing and everything. That's just how my life has played out for me. I've had to take L's and bring myself back. And I've seen guys that have taken losses and stay down there and see what their quality of life is now. And that was never going to be me. I've always, set myself to a higher bar. And that's essentially how I continued. So this year, yes, it was tough. But it wasn't the toughest thing I've gone through by any stretch of the imagination. Right. So I think a lot of people out there, especially in the tech space, I could really speak to that because obviously I've been in the tech space for the last 7 years. I know how the market's been, and I know how a lot of people have had really tough years that are in the tech space. And I've seen it. I've seen some people stay down and they don't have the mental strength to really overcome what's going on right now in the market, and then others that are just as tough as me that aren't doing triathlons. They're just like your average Joe on paper, but they have the strong enough mental capacity to maybe venture out into someone else. My buddy Nick, him and I were recruiting together, and instead of staying down, he ended up losing like 60, 70 pounds. Now he's a fitness trainer and doing something completely different with his life. So no matter what it is, as long as you continuously have that mental sharpness, that's kind of where the Goggins stuff comes in, right? You don't have to go out and do the Moab, 250 or whatever that race is, right? You don't have to do those things, but it's all about how mentally strong you could be. And really overcome anything. And I think that's really the biggest thing my message is going to be for my race recap video for this Indian Wells is that I was at the lowest I could be at the beginning of the year. And now I'm at the high point. And now, I'm excited for 2024, 2025, 2026. I'm just excited. And you just got to have that mental strength, man. And whatever I got to do to, talk people through that, show them podcasts, show them whatever I got to do, as long as you stay mentally sharp, dude, you could get through anything, man.
Man, I absolutely love that message. And one thing about, my takeaways and, of course, as we get to the end of the podcast, I'm going to ask you about a book and a song that is motivated you. One thing that I will say too is that, going deep inside, I've got David Goggins' last book. And one thing I think a big misconception that a lot of people think is that because of course, Instagram, everybody's like, watching his videos like go out and run, and they don't realize how much that mental toughness is matched with the strategic, because there's a point in his book where he talks about he does a lot of his training in zone 2. And for the average person that sees his videos, they'll be like, he's a savage, he's going out there. And the reason why, and he explains the reason why he can do that is because he does most of his training in zone 2. But also that I love that physical part, but the mental part, what he said is we don't think about our zones mentally. And he said, when you get into these hard moments, take a second and think, am I mentally in zone 2? Am I mentally in zone 3? Am I mentally in zone 5? And sometimes, if you look at it that way, sometimes you might think you're in zone 5 because life is tough, but you really are in a zone 2, because if you can assess the situation and figure out and move and say, sometimes it's really just asking yourself, am I okay? All right, I'm in zone 2. Let's get it. So I think that's one of the things that I take away from what you said, and also what I take from what David Goggins says in his book is that check your zones mentally. Are you mentally in zone 2, or are you mentally in zone 5? Because you might just be in zone 2, and you might just be acting like a bitch.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually great because not only did I start off the year laid off, but I also had to get surgery. I had hernia. I had hernia surgery. Yeah, it's not even something that's in my mind anymore. But again, I had to take these L's, and at the time, the initial shock. Yeah, I was probably acting like I was in zone 5.
Wow.
I had to keep the benefits that I had. I had really good benefits, and I was like, I have to get this surgery while I'm on these benefits. So yeah, I was scrambling. I probably felt like I was in zone 5, but now when I look at it at the end of the year, I was definitely in, a zone 2, right? Because
Wow.
like I said, this isn't something that was the hardest thing in my life. I've gone through way tougher trials and tribulations in my life than, getting laid off, having to go through a very, very minor surgery. I mean, dude, you should have seen me. I was scrambling. I was like, okay, I had benefits up until here. I was meeting with every doctor I can.
I remember seeing
yeah,
that.
man. And on the vegan side of stuff, I don't just blindly trust any doctor. I'm not just going to go in and be like, can you open me up and do this? Right.
Yeah,
I'm going to do my own research. I learned about meshes. I learned about everything that you possibly could learn about a very simple surgery nowadays. And I was getting in these doctors' asses, and I could tell some of them was not happy with it. But I was like, dude, I'm on full, full court press mode. I got to get this surgery by a given time. So it's funny that you say that, because at the time I was acting in zone 5, but it was very much zone 2, barely zone 2, maybe even zone 1. I was at like a walking pace, right? But now at the end of the year, man, I'm just very happy, and it's funny. So I actually have all my medals right here. Right.
Let's go.
And I was telling you, Happy Valley's way in the back. I don't even want to look at that thing. But what's up front is obviously Maryland and the new Indian Wells, and this is last year's Indian Wells medal, and obviously I have it above the last year's medal. Is just because, dude, I have to remind myself that I had to go through these losses to go ahead and put another medal in front of that loss, because and that's why I love this sport, because it challenges you both mentally and physically, and nothing that I've seen as of recent since I started doing these races are tougher than these races.
Yeah.
Bro, when you get off that bike and you're at mile on the full marathon or full Ironman, and you're at mile 14 and you got 12 miles to go, I'm telling you, nothing in life is harder than that, both mentally and physically, because it's crazy. It's starting to get dark outside.
Right.
People are starting to finish already, and you're already like 8-9 hours into this thing. And you're like, oh my fucking God, like this is nuts. So it's just all about, and I know you're going to ask about the book, and it's still to this day that The Alchemist, right? Because it's all about how the journey plays out, and no matter how hard that journey comes out, that treasure's at the end. And I'm not saying that this PR is my treasure right now. It's definitely the treasure for this end of this year. 100%. I mean, the fact I could start so low and end with such a high note, I mean, I may write a book about it, to be honest with you, just because of how crazy this year. And I've proven to myself that I really could do anything. And, I'm at this next chapter of my life where, I want to, get married, have kids. And for a long time, that stuff seemed unreachable for me. I was like, dude, I feel like I don't think I could do it. But now it's just like, dude, I'm ready to take on whatever I want. Yep. Whether it's a endurance race, and next year, as much as I want to do 73s, I think I may do about 2 to 3 73s, maybe 4, kind of depending on how they play out. But I want to start venturing out in other stuff. I'm gonna do 2 bike races next year.
Go.
There is one in Boulder. It's called the Triple Bypass. It's over 100. I think it's 113 miles. But you pretty much climb Everest, I think is what it is as far as like elevation gain. I think that's essentially what it is. I don't know. I know it's a tough bike race. My buddy lives in Denver. He did it last year. He said you'd love it. So I want to venture out into other stuff. Yeah. Venture out into other stuff as well, right? I don't think I'm the marathon runner that I once sought out to be, but maybe that will come later in life. But yeah, I just want to start doing stuff that's going to keep challenging me. 73s are always going to be challenging, especially the sub 5. I don't think it's something may happen next year. It could, kind of depending, but I just want to just keep challenging myself, dude. Because if you don't challenge yourself purposely, when real challenges that aren't purposely happening, you're not going to know what the fuck to do. Yep. So if I purposely challenge myself, when real challenges come without me knowing, you know, I'll be able to overcome that. So that's, and that's really my message. And it all comes organically, right? I mean, that's again behind my message. You can't fake this shit. You know, there's a lot of fluff on Instagram, on YouTube. A lot of guys just kind of piggybacking off of Nick Bear or Goggins, right? You know, but there's just no fluff to doing this hard shit and overcoming hard shit. I mean, because if you don't overcome it, it'll show, right? Yeah. So no fluff, just fucking get the work done, dude. Challenge yourself. And it doesn't have to be these marathons. It doesn't have to be these Ironmans, right? It could just be simply changing your diet. What's the 70 hard? You ever heard that?
I've heard 70, it, but
it's like 75 days hard or something like that.
Yeah,
like drinking, you know, things like that. Those type of challenge, like do something like that, just out of your comfort zone. And you know, the Ironmans weren't in my comfort zone. I was a football player. I didn't know how to fucking swim. You're right. So just pushing yourself to those external limits that you just never once thought was possible.
Right.
Doing those, and then once real challenges come up in life, it'll be those zone 2. You're in those zone 2 mental capacity. So
no, I completely agree with that. You know, I think that's one thing that even like you said before, the book that you love, and you know, I love that book as well. The Alchemist, and that's the funny thing about it, is that's, you know, that is what happens in that book. He goes different places, he learns different lessons. And he finds out that the treasures that he's chasing aren't really the treasures that he ends up with in the end, or he had it all along. He had the treasures all along. They were sitting right up under his feet. And, you know, but it's about the journey to go through, the journey that you go through to find those things that you really, really love to do. So I absolutely love that. That's one of my favorite books as well. So tell me about a song like that. You know, there's been a lot of music that's been coming, that's been out. I think the last song that you, I don't remember the song, but I know it was a Drake song. So tell me a song right now.
I think the last time was just the whole Drake moving into house music. It was just a shock to everyone. And I think that's essentially where I was in life. You know, people who knew me before, they saw me as this, now, you know, how I was before, essentially degenerate. I mean, that's probably the nicest way to put it. And now this like vegan, you know, endurance athlete, they're like, who the fuck? Kind of same when the House Drake album dropped. But honestly, bro, I just listen to trap music. I just have to fucking get through this shit, bro. And so I've just been listening to a lot of Gunna, a lot of Future, just this toxic masculinity shit, bro, because no fluff there. I just needed it, man. Cause you have to think of like 8 Mile, right? I mean, when he was going through that tough shit, he was just listening to hard rap at that time. And that's just where I am, man. There's not a one specific song. I'm pretty sure my number one listened to artist this year was Gunna. Just because I just had to, man. I was trying to deal with this stuff mentally, and there really wasn't calming music for me. I was like, I was on full go mode all fucking year, bro. So Gunna and Future, that's all I was listening to all year.
I could dig it. And that, you know, I think that's the most important thing about music, man, is just like it helps you stay in that zone that you're in, man, where you're like, that's one thing I like about what like Future and stuff. It's like, it's always consistent energy. Like you ain't never going to hear a Future song where he ain't being himself. He's straight up telling you what it is. And that's a constant reminder, especially when you're in these zones or when you're in that pain cave. Sometimes you need a good song that to guide you and to walk you into the arena of your pain cave.
Yeah, man. But you said it. Future, it's always gonna be the same stuff, and that's just what I needed. And you know, even though I'm trying to be this new person, and you know, striving to be the best version of me, I'm still me, and I love me. And I think that the internal love for myself has been something that has really changed my life the last several years. Is, you know, really finding that love for myself. And one of my favorite, he's more underground, I guess you would say, say now, or I mean, kind of mainstream a little bit, but currency. He was I'm Jet Life for life, man. And one of the biggest lines he's said that's really honed in on me for my entire life is ain't shit changed but the address. And a lot of things, yes, not only has my address changed, my lifestyle has changed, all these stuff, but I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to be me, and that's something I'd want to embrace, especially coming into this endurance world. I think that's where a lot of people have given me comments is like, dude, you're a breath of fresh air in this stuff. There's not a lot of people like you, and I know that I'm me for a reason, and I'm never going to change me. Yes, I may change my lifestyle, my eating habits, my mental space, all these things, but I'm going to be me. Ain't shit changed but the address. And I'm gonna be me no matter what. And yeah, man, that's how you got to be. You got to find that internal love, be you, and no matter if you make a change, just continuously be you, because you is awesome. So,
what advice can you give to someone who's not, like you said, you don't got to go out and do an Ironman, you don't got to go out and do a marathon. Let's just talk about getting people active. Yeah. What is your best advice to give to someone who wants to just take that day one to change their life into better, whether it's physically, mentally, or just be a better person?
Yeah, I think just looking at the bigger picture, looking outside yourself. Even if you're solo dolo, got no partner, got no family, right? Or versus someone that maybe does have a family, just look at the longer term, right? So if you have a family versus not have a family, if you don't have a family, look at your longer term of the best version of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't have to be, the 6-pack juiced up type of dude, but do you want to be 60, 70 years old and, barely moving, being on a bunch of medication, right? Family person with all these external factors. Do you want to be older and not be able to play with your kids, not be able to play with your nieces and nephews? It's just a lot of things that I look back at is how we used to live as humans very early on, right? These people weren't sitting in their house playing video games, watching movies, doing all these things. They were just out active, not right. Getting active. We were active. Humans were just active people, right? So everything I do, I just look at, cavemen and or very early humans. Those people were just out moving. Just get up and move, right? So I think another big thing is easy way to do it is just reconnect with nature, man. You don't have to go out and hit the pavements in the streets like we do, but just get out, just breathe some fresh air, man. Go on a hike or something, even if it's a mile hike. Just get moving, right? Because movement is, everyone wants to talk about the 6-minute abs or, all these short-term ways to get healthy. But really, when it comes down to it, health is it's pretty simple, right? That I think that's why they don't really teach doctors that in med school, right? You got to learn about much more things outside of just basic health, because that's what it's basic. Get up and move. Just get up and move, breathe some fresh air, get out of your house, because a lot of things will benefit from just getting outside, right? I mean, getting sun, right? And then it branches out into all these things by simply just like going outside. Then once you start getting outside, you'll realize that all these benefits, you go down these wormholes. That's where you go into the Huberman Lab podcast, right. Rich Roll, you'll just dive into all these things of why things are beneficial by simply just stepping outside your house. So the easiest exercise in the world is simple movement. Joe Holder, if you guys are familiar with him, he's like a Nike trainer, super cool dude. His whole thing is exercise snacks. And it could be like a 5-10 minute thing, right? So even just if you're coming out of your car and you live on the 3rd floor and jog up the steps versus walking the steps, or take the steps versus an elevator, right? Just those exercise snacks throughout your day is going to equal a whole meal. So it's just, it's very simple. Don't simplify it, or don't make things super complicated. Just keep it super simple, because essentially that's what movement is. It's simple. Just moving your 2 feet.
Man, that's such a gem. That's such a gem for people out there, and I hope that a lot of people, they extract a lot from this conversation. Man, me and you can get on here and talk forever. I'm
Yeah, I
already
know.
I'm already sitting there like, man, like I wish we had some more time, but I'm pretty sure we'll be on here again. I mean, we built a really, really strong friendship over the years, and we'll
Yeah.
continue on. I think both of our focus is to motivate people
Oh
that were
yeah.
in places where we were, and
Yeah.
help people to get to where they want to get. So, with that being said, man, just give where they can find you, your YouTube, your socials and everything. Where if someone needed to find Organic Iron Man, man, where they go?
Just Google it. It's like no, Instagram Organic Iron Man, YouTube Organic Iron Man. Gonna make a bigger YouTube push into 2024. I think that it's tough, man. I think we talked about in the first episode is putting out content's hard, especially when you're training a lot. And I'm not very comfortable in front of a camera, as crazy as it may sound. That's why I throw music onto everything that I have, so I don't have to talk. I can just like show you what I'm doing. I'll throw a song that I'm messing with at the time. But yeah, man, Organic Iron Man on both YouTube and Instagram.
Man, and also earlier this year you dropped some shirts, some merch from your line. Where can people go to find if they want to support and get some of your merch?
OrganicIronMan.com. And that's going to be some better drops are coming. That was just kind of like my first get a feel for it. And it seemed like a lot of people were messing with it. So I'm really going to dive into more of the design side this year. So I kind of learned the game on that. Trials and tribulations on the merch for sure. But now that I kind of, again, it's another L to learn. I mean, the merch wasn't an L by any means of imagination, but there were definitely things I could have done better. So now I know kind of how to go about that. So yeah, man, we'll keep teaching. We'll keep teaching free game on here.
Yeah, man, it's all about transparency. It's all about transparency. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, thank you to my guest for coming on the Organic Iron Man, and I hope you guys get something from this conversation, because whether you like it or not, we're going to have more. So, thank you guys for coming, and see you later. Peace.